my grandmother turned 80, and I'm on 3 Percocets, I ain't even 8 yet. Flipping through the chicken, fingertips get stained red. Yeah, Benjamin, them crippin', I can't make it make sense. I just try to make peace. I'm rolling with this 30 like lurking with Davies. The AMG swerving, I was worthless on these same streets. I made it out, I ain't too worried if they claim me. Mainly if we ain't co-parent this pain, prefer you hate me. The only certainty luring me in the Hades lately. Persephone flirt with me. I was 7, first heard her sing since then heaven to blur to me. Every step X is hurting me, turn to blessing and courtesy. I ate off this fork in the road, made a little morsel of crow, flamed up a torch with the coals, snake through the ports of my soul, ain't chasing like...
MAVI, welcome back to Bullseye. I'm so happy to have you back on the show. It's nice to see you again.
Thank you for having me again, Jesse. Why the can I curse?
No, but it's okay.
Why the heck would you introduce me with that audio clip?
Look, we're playing the new. We're out here playing the new singles, MAVI. We're playing the new singles. You're not always that upset about the way your life is going.
Man, that one was so crazy because I knew I wanted it to be a single, and like I shot the music video and everything, and then like. It didn't occur to me until I like posted the video on Instagram. I'm like, oh no, my mom's gonna hear this. And now not only my mom, but every mom who listens to Bullseye will also hear that. So thank you, Jesse.
That's true. How do you feel about that? What did your mom think about it?
We don't talk about that one. She talks about the other one, but we don't talk about that one. That one's a rough one.
What's it like to know that you made a record like that and that piece of you is not just out there for your parents and whatever, but also for anyone in the world who chooses to listen?
It's vulnerable, and it makes you feel really small. But then it makes the scary things in your life also feel really small. You know, it's like if you like climb Machu Picchu, you know, it's like, wow, my rent is due tomorrow and I don't care because I'm on top of Machu Picchu. But then, yeah, as small as you feel in the ocean or on top of a mountain, and how small your problems become at those places is like what happens to my woes when I like spread them across like the boundless universes, you know?
I mean, I'll tell you that listening to that song first and hearing you rap about having 3 Percocets in you before you have breakfast, and the audience at home can't see that you're wearing a Whitney Houston t-shirt.
Oh man, God, Jesse.
Like the resonance of that is hard to avoid.
Yeah, man. I think for me, hip hop is a genre of art that thrives on juxtaposition. You know, JayZ works because he's aspirational to the drug dealer in you and to the like not rich, not like future millionaire capitalist in you at the same time. So like, while I am MAVI, like MAVI is in like the young, attractive, well-known early 20-something on the scene, in the studios, in the clubs, I'm also somebody's grandson as well. So like juxtaposing like, this is what I do and this is what I do. And they happen at the same time sometimes. I think like that's really... that can be really poignant and really compelling.
JayZ also, I think, appeals to the nerd in you as well, secretly.
Absolutely. Exactly. The nerd, exactly. Yeah, we love, as a hip-hop listener loves hearing a word that you are impressed by yourself knowing from somebody that you wouldn't expect to also know that word.
I mean, I used to, when I was a younger man, my mom was a college professor, and I used to go into her pop culture class, and we would explicate the JayZ song Threat.
Mm.
Threat is like this song that goes, like, it's like, especially like the second verse is this sort of like complicated, multi-layered set of metaphors about, and wordplay about like the desert and Las Vegas and being buried and all these different like things going on that are couched in JayZ, just like rapping in a way where you're just like, oh, this is just a cool guy acting cool. You know what I mean?
Literally. Yeah, the song begins with somebody saying they'll chop you up and put you in the mattress like drug money. That making it to a pop culture class is like, oh, there's nothing short of amazing.
How are you feeling these days?
Lonely. But I am learning to like hanging out with myself more and more every day. They don't tell you that that's something you need to learn. You know? For a while, I was like my least favorite guy to hang out with. Not only like to the point of like, I don't want to hang out with this guy, but like to the point of like, don't leave me in a room alone with this guy. And so I've been doing some exposure therapy to myself lately.
How do you manage it?
Well, it helps that a lot of people that I would lean on to in those awkward times of loneliness, like 3 a.m. or like 1:30 in the afternoon, they all have me blocked. So I'm kind of...
They just got it on Do Not Disturb. They're just asleep, mommy.
Oh, no, not this time, Jesse. But beyond that, it's like I realized that I like to do certain things by myself that I didn't do as much because I was almost never by myself. And just getting back into those things.
Do you have siblings?
Yes, and that's a part of it. I've never really lived in a house with no one, you know? So like being around no one is like really, like my inner child can't get jiggy with that, you know?
I know exactly what you mean because in my family, my wife and I have been together since we were teenagers, and my wife grew up with 2 siblings and lots of cousins that were always at her house, and 2 parents who were always there, and you know, everybody really tight, busy all the time. And I'm my mother's only child, and I have 2 half brothers on the other side, but they're much younger than me. Mm-hmm. So I thought like I knew what it was like to have siblings because I love my brothers and everything. But like when everybody is out of the house for me, I'm like, whew, oh, thank God everybody's out of the house. I love all these people that live in my house. But like, I'm like, oh, like I'm sitting in a shed in my backyard right now. Like, oh, no one can reach me here.
No. When everybody leaves, my body, well, you know, I think it's like drugs too. Like I'm weaning myself off of the necessity of other people's company, but with nobody around, I start feeling like so panicked, like existentially. I don't know. So I've been working on that, you know. And I think just letting myself be bored to the point that I got the brain space from like a 0 point to get back into like my interests for real has made it better. Because like there are things that make you feel less lonely because you're distracting yourself from yourself. And there are things that make you feel less lonely because you're directing yourself towards yourself. And I'm trying to do those things.
When my children and wife went to up to the Bay Area to visit her family and left me here in Southern California, I was like out of the house doing chores. Then I'm like in the house cleaning up. I hate cleaning up. I'm not one of these people that gets satisfied by cleaning up, but I'm like cleaning and cleaning and cleaning. And I'm like, I couldn't find the quietude to like watch television. Like
Right.
even that was not enough action for me, for me to calm myself down.
Yeah, I'd be so pent up. Yeah. I don't know. And so also because like I'm 25 this year, that's why, I have to buy a house and stuff. But eventually I begin to be on the clock to have a family of my own, right? And I would like to get along with myself a lot better before I re-enter that cycle of like never being alone again.
What precipitated this point in your life? Was it just getting older? Was it being in a position that you could live on your own and not with roommates or with your parents, or what?
About like wanting to get along better with myself.
Yeah, and just being in a position where you were realizing that you were lonely and having room to be lonely.
Well, I think it's because like I'm a real people pleaser, like, and I'm like the life of the party. Like I like to show everybody a good time. I like to buy the round of drinks. I like to like call the homie like, hey, let's go to lunch. And I like formed some emotional codependencies that were really toxic. And when they got withdrawn from my life, I realized, ooh, somebody is occupying me in some form, like all day. Like all day. It's a handoff from one person to the other person, to the other person, to the other person. And when I stopped having a person who was like doing a lot of the like relay of me, right? Like in the awkward times that I was talking about before, then it made me realize like, ooh, man, you have 1 million friends. You have 1 million people who listen to your voice every day. You have a loving family, a dog. And you are so lonely. And it's not you're lonely because you don't have anyone. You're lonely because you miss yourself. You don't really know how to talk to yourself anymore. So I've been kind of getting back to that.
Peel in my second whip, stealing, putting second hand. Kills in my residence, healed on my brethren with a seal, we can't let you in. Medicine, I put the effort in and still burn that effigy. Odorous, I'm sober, just as little as they letting me. Mama, wipe your tears, I'm fighting titans, can't invite you here. Poetic license, fearing from the mic, my chest too tight to steer. Chest lessons, blood letting flood when the night is clear. I ain't give a till my lungs had to fight for it. Glaring, staring, numb, therapist had a life to spare. Snatched me by the eye, said I'ma fight whether I like or not. And then she told me reasons why, but that's the private part. Burnt the midnight light and killed the driver.
Can I ask you a life of the party question?
Ask it.
One time, like, I don't know, probably more than 10 years ago now, I went to downtown Los Angeles to this big loft, and it was Donald Glover's birthday party.
Mm-hmm.
Donald Glover, very nice guy, very talented guy. Haven't seen him since then, so I presume he still is. He's certainly still very talented. I enjoy his acting. But anyway, I'm at Donald Glover's birthday party. I'm like, whoa, this is way less of a improv people I know from the Upright Citizens Brigade theater scene and way more of a handsome people in the music industry scene. It's a little overwhelming, right? And I'm there maybe an hour. Then all of a sudden, Donald Glover is up on a landing in this loft, rapping. Like this dude has a sound system, and there's he's a very talented musician outside of rap as well. He's got his little production set up there. Somebody's DJing, right? And Don's just on the mic freestyling. And I was like, What? Like, this dude is rapping at his own birthday party?
Yeah, that's insane. I don't think I would ever do that.
Yeah, so that's my question, right? Because on the one hand, this guy is charismatic and handsome, pretty good at rapping. He's pulling it off. I bet this means that he's going to be a movie star. You know what I mean?
But literally, yeah, and you were correct in that. You were correct in that.
Yeah, it turned out that way.
But like, to make a metaphor out of that, I realized I was rapping at my own birthday party a lot. You know? Like, in a place where I should be safe, I'm still performing. You know? So I had to I'm fixing that about myself actively. It's crazy.
What do you have to do?
Well, one of my friends told me he did this thing at his therapist's like direction, right? And Jesse, I want you to really think. Before I'm gonna ask the question, then I'm gonna say what the directive was. Okay? The question is, could you do this without sobbing? So, what his therapist told him to do was to take off all of his clothes, right? Stand in the mirror and tell himself things that he likes about himself. Doesn't that sound horrifying?
Yeah, I mean, whether I could do it without sobbing is, I think, probably a different question than whether I could do it without feeling like sobbing.
Yeah.
Probably speaks to a multi-layered issue inside me.
Yeah.
That maybe I should be sobbing when I feel like that.
So I'm trying to get to the point where I can do that. You know? Yeah. That feels like the SAT test of not hating yourself.
But Mavi, I'm on NPR and you went to Howard. We were good at the SAT test.
Right? And that's the thing too. It's like, you know, I was a Gen Z kid who always was like, what's the word when like, it like made an, like exceptionalized? Is that a word? I don't know. Mm-hmm. Like someone who was like pedestalized, right? Like in talented and gifted classes, didn't really work all that hard in school, tested really well, went to school on full scholarship. Shortly into my college career that I was at for free at the school I wanted to go to, my mixtape got recognized by my favorite rapper in the world and sent me down this. So there comes a time where it's like, when on paper you should be impressed by yourself, and when by all accounts do you have a ton to be grateful for. What will it take for MAVI to like MAVI? For MAVI to believe MAVI? Because the talent development teachers believed in you, and then Howard University believed in you, and then Earl Sweatshirt believed in you, and then millions of people believed in you. What's the problem? You know? What's the problem?
Did the teachers always believe in you? Teachers were disappointed in me, Mavi, by and large.
Teachers used to like have little rivalries with me in the classroom. Yeah.
I know about that one.
Yeah, they used to do that one a lot with me. Cause like, you know when like the teacher asks a question that nobody's supposed to know the answer to so that they can get into explaining? I would always know the answer. Like they wouldn't, like I would be the only one in the class with my hand raised, and they'll be like, no, anybody but MAVI. You know? I was that kid.
They looking through me, you don't see me. I thought I made it out to sea, but I was dreaming. Ursa Major was the ladle, come and scoop me. My heart was banging out the cage, they called us speeding. We hit the babies in the framing of the hoopty. I was hugged and I was cuddled, I was smuggled across the puddle, thought my destiny was struggle. God had impressed on me the best, his scribble sluggish. I try my best, repeated yells is all I mustered. Perform surgery on myself with just a cudgel. I'm more certain about my death than my construction. I pull smoke till I'm out of breath to try to function. The God and Son for my life.
I just interviewed Common the other day, and the single from his album is like a list of people he admires he'd like to meet in the afterlife, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's very sweet, and it's only speaking positivity into the world.
Mm.
And, you know, it's not like Common is incapable of rapping about other kinds of stuff, but like I noticed multiple verses, I can't cite them right now, but more than one verse that you have about your flesh falling away from your bone, being left as a skeleton.
Yeah. Yeah. But, okay. Mom just doesn't pat itself on the butt or pat the world on the butt, but it also doesn't feel sorry for itself. And I think, like, that's really human. I think, like, I was talking to my mom, like, and when I was really in the throes of, like, alcoholism, I told her, I feel like I'm not going to be around for a long time. And I told her, like, I feel like I've already messed this up beyond repair. Like, things that you had already gotten right by my age, I still haven't gotten right. And she said, but the next day, she was like, I understand. It made me sad to hear you say that, but I understand why you said that. Because, like, I kind of almost died at, like, almost every important developmental stage. Like, I almost died as a baby, as a toddler, as a teenager, as a young adult. You know what I'm saying? As a teenager multiple times, and then as a young adult multiple times. So I think it made me, every time, it makes me like, what do I want to equip people I love with for the day that I'm not here? That I wake up and go to sleep with that thought on my mind every single day. And that applies to, like, my family, that applies to my friends, that applies to the listener, that applies to, like, the students and the soldiers and the poor and the pious and the hedonistic of the world. What do I want to equip the people who represent all these shards of myself with when I have to go?
Do you come to an answer when you think about that question?
No. For now, my political treatise can be my diary. Like, the story of Christ is the story of his life. What it became an allegory for, depending on what you think about how the Bible was written, but what it became an allegory for is a result of the events described as someone's life. At the worst case, I know that would be the truth about my life. At the best case, I figure out what this story that is being told to me through the events of my life is while I'm still alive, and can impart that. But I don't know yet, and I want to know so bad.
Breathing out of love for respiration. My dog a jewel drop, an excavator. I'm dodging school, I'll just stress it later. Mama saw him full throttle, pressing patience. E-brake, outgrow my knee aches. Falco, hobble steep gate, algo. Halloween face, frowned up. How when she sang alto on brown for peace sake. Crown me, I'm a me lady, lay down. Now I'ma keep saving, break down. Now I'ma keep aim cause they got 1,003 ways to scrape down the house. A reframe it, FaceTime my mama. 3 faded, 8 time around so she patient. We can't keep waiting.
I definitely understand the feeling that, you know, as a young man, you have cast the die, and, you know, the number you got is the number you got. But I also, like, in my own life, well, for one thing, I'm older than you. I'm almost 20 years older than you. So I've had 20 extra years to think about it. But also, when my father was my age, I was like kindergarten age. And my dad had been an alcoholic and user to the point where he had chunks of his life where he was homeless.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how much of that time he was living rough, but definitely didn't have a place of his own, and had made all kinds of catastrophic mistakes and poisoned himself with drinking and et cetera, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I also went to a lot of AA meetings with my dad because single parent, got to go to meetings to stay sober. There's other ways to stay sober as well, of course, but he was going to meetings to stay sober, so I was in the back coloring, right? I heard a lot of stories as a 7-year-old from a lot of people whose lives had hit a lot of bottoms, and a lot of people who were there engaging with that and creating a new life for themselves. And I saw in my father, eventually my father remarried. I didn't have to go to the meetings with him. I could stay with my stepmom. But like I could see in my father a transformed life, and not a perfectly transformed life. My dad still had heavy problems, but he stayed sober and was my dad and my brother's dad in a way that he could not have been had he not decided to like engage his life and have a different thing,
Yeah. But I don't know. And I think an important breakthrough for me is realizing like it's not too late until you let it be too late, Like reversing sale while you're still going forward is painful, But, you don't have to wait until all this entire gust of wind that's pushing you this way completely dies to decide to turn your ship in the other direction. And I think I tend to like really dichotomize like being like a drunk or a monk, I'm a binge drinker or a binge not drinker. Or I'm like, it's like I made this like systems theory chart, right? About how addiction functions in my life. And it's gonna be like, shameless plug, it's gonna be like in the vinyl as the insert.
So you literally made a chart, for real?
Yeah, I actually made a chart. I'm gonna show you the chart. But yeah, I think like I have this cycle of like having a breakthrough, having confidence in that breakthrough, and then the overconfidence in that breakthrough. Like I just use sobriety or use the breakthrough as an excuse making or a distraction from the thing that makes me sad in the first place. So it's like, because, okay, so the system works like, it goes loss and then self-destruction into retribution. And the retribution either turns to control or it turns to a breakthrough. The breakthrough turns into asceticism, which is overcompensation, which is denial, which turns back into self-destruction, and then relapse, and then loss again. Here's the chart.
We can see on the camera here
Yeah.
you have a for real flow chart there.
Yeah. Trying to think in systems these days.
It's unbelievable priority for you. But you know what? One time my dad sat me down and he's like, let's do some strategic planning. We'll start with a mind map. And my dad was an organizer, so he had a big one of those huge pads, and in his office on top of his filing cabinet there was a basket, and in the basket was those kind of permanent markers that graffiti writers steal. Mm-hmm. The kind with like a 1-inch tip.
Yeah, where you push it up against the wall and all the ink drips.
And he was, and he could, he was a master of giant paper pad, giant permanent marker, draw a thing. I couldn't do it in a million years, MAVI. Not in a million billion years.
I didn't do it by myself. My friend Jesse Fox Hallen helped me make it. Yeah, but yeah, it was like interesting because I think, if you think about what a system is in terms of physics, it's like a set of forces that can self-perpetuate, either like indefinitely or will terminate after the balance between the forces ceases. So stuff that keeps happening all the time in correlation with some other stuff that keep happening all the time, I think it's important to draw relationships between them, for me.
Cleanse the boredom out my system. I see that borderline alluring corpses out my sickness. I metamorphosized and made a course about my trenches. I let the Lord decide if I would go or not, and he sent me. I showed my mortal side and she was mortified. I went still. I closed the door, sometimes still go to war.
Did you really have a 3.8 GPA in college?
Something like that. I had some points. This is rap music. It wasn't nothing bad though. I probably had. I'm lying. I failed 2 classes, but because I ain't never go. If we ain't have none of that, I'm very close to a 4, even very close.
You gotta get those Fs into incompletes. That's the only thing that got me out of college.
Yeah, I did that for a few, but some of them I came to college a sophomore type deal, and like the thing I failed was psychology. I had a double major, biology and psychology, and I failed my psychology major freshman orientation class. There was a freshman seminar class for the psych majors, and and they met once a month, but then there was a project at the end of the semester, and I hadn't gone in 3 months, and I'm like, okay, it's a half a credit class. Y'all can have it.
What's it like to go to a college where it might be that the president went to your alma mater?
Where'd you go to college, Jesse?
I went to the University of California at Santa Cruz. We're not generating any presidents. Most of our there's some very successful marine biologists.
Okay, I can dig that.
And
I think
a few of the Lonely Island guys went there, but didn't graduate. That kind of thing.
I think Howard University has always functioned as a place for Black professionals to send their children to become Black professionals, or that the Black elite send their children to meet the other, maintain, network, in service to that elite status. I was not that. So I always felt a little left out. Kids were going to the club and getting sections our freshman year at college. I couldn't do that. going to brunch, and I got the McPick 2 for $2.50 McChicken 4-piece nugget with the water cut. You know what I'm saying? So it was kind of isolating and kind of telling, because I never really understood that Black people in America like be rich, like in numbers like that. But yeah, it was a illuminating and isolating experience in some different in parts, because we did the big protests and stuff that had very like far left leanings, and it didn't really even land on me until like after I left school, where it's like, oh, MAVI, that school doesn't function. It's a private, you know what I'm saying? It's a private college. It doesn't function for any egalitarian aim,
Or that it is both, maybe. I mean, like, I think there's some egalitarianism in it, right? It can both enable and support, quote unquote Black excellence, but also gatekeep it.
Right. And that's kind of the thing. I don't really know how I feel about Black excellence. I don't like exceptionalism in like almost any form. And while Black excellence feels like we're raising the floor by like acknowledging the height of the ceiling, that's just trickle down respectability politics, Like, where's the and it contributes to poor Black leadership, because Black people collectivize our successes, and from the outside culture, like white mainstream culture, we collectivize our failures. So we encourage to collectivize our successes. But like, for example, all I could contribute for my entire life to the Black community could be inspiration. And I could be a billionaire. And a lot of Black people would be really happy with that by itself, which is like a little pathetic to me for a people who are like in such an important crossroads position politically, economically, etc. right now. And like, so to that point, like, obviously I'm a big fan of JayZ. I'm a big fan of hip hop. Like, it's really cool for JayZ that he like did business with Ace of Spades. But like, for the ordinary Black child that might not have done anything or as much as if he's like doing whatever he does on the ground for Black children specifically. You know what I'm saying? But we actually celebrate the Ace of Spades deal and are proud of that more than we like point the spotlight on like real on the ground change in less glitzy ways. Like, really, like, I'm sure he's paying a lot of people's rent. And that's a lot more exciting to me than like a big brand sponsorship,
I mean, I'll say this, MAVI. My feeling about it, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that your opposition to exceptionalism might be, I'm not discounting any of the systemic stuff you were just talking about, but it might also be some like drama of the gifted child stuff.
It is. But what I'm saying is like, man.
Because like when you're a gifted kid, exceptionalism stinks. It's only burden. Because you can only be this thing that was already set up or a failure.
Right. And I think like, I don't know. I think representation it matters a lot and it's helpful a lot, because there are so many things that people haven't seen people who look like them do still in the year 2024. Absolutely. But I worry about this, like, first, success and failure in any community, and especially not the Black community, is not super bimodal. Like, we have a big lump, like, in the like standard deviation chart looking thing on this side, and we have like a few crazy cool spikes over here on the far like successful end. So I worry that like as the forces of society squish the majority of people into preordained spots, how do we find pride in individuals who don't qualify for our exceptionalism? You know, because ultimately they are the base for the exceptionalism itself. Like, yes, MAVI is a gifted child, but one thing different about MAVI is like, dude, like my dad put my mom through college. I was like 14. Like my grandmother, one of my grandmothers went to college and went to high school and dropped out because she was having my dad, or graduated and didn't continue. And then one of my grandmothers stopped going to school in like the 6th grade. So what I'm saying is like, it's not just like, oh, don't call me special because that makes me feel weird. But don't call me special when I know you wouldn't call anybody who makes me special, special. And that it's not a defense of my own ego and insecurities or like unwillingness to rise to the occasion, because I still like work to a standard and work to like push the boundaries of like how good I can be, how excellent I actually can be. However, I want to measure excellence by the metrics that actually matter to me in my life. And by my metrics, my grandmother, my great-grandmother, my great-grandfather, these are excellent people. And by a lot of other people metrics, these are poor Black people from the country. And I don't know if I can get jiggy with that, honestly, Jess.
Well, MAVI, we're out of time, so I'm going to thank you for ending our interview with an answer that included both getting jiggy with it and bimodality. Talking about rap music here on National Public Radio. MAVI, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me, and it was great to see you. I hope we'll see you again.
Of course, and many, many more, Jesse.